My sister hired investigators to expose my fake success after I cut off my toxic family. Her plan backfired spectacularly. Hey Reddit, my sister hired investigators to prove I was lying about my successful life after cutting off my toxic family. She planned to expose me as a fraud at my grandmother's 85th birthday party. Their faces went absolutely white when the investigation report hit the table. Here's how it went down. The last time I saw my sister Victoria, she was smirking at me across our parents' mahogany dining table. Mom was sobbing into her napkin, while Dad's venomous words echoed through the room like they always did. I always knew you'd amount to nothing. That night, 5 years ago, was my breaking point. The final time I let my family make me feel utterly small and worthless. Mom, Hope, which is hilarious considering how little of that she gave me, pleaded between theatrical sniffles. Sweetheart, we just want what's best for you. If you'd just listen to Victoria about the job at her firm. I cut in, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the rage bubbling inside me. The entry-level admin position? The one where I'd be fetching her coffee? Victoria's perfect, infuriating smile didn't waver. Everyone has to start somewhere, little sister. Some of us just start higher than others. That familiar, agonizing knot in my stomach tightened. For 26 years, I'd been trapped in Victoria's shadow. She collected accolades. I collected criticisms. Every one of my achievements was weighed against hers and found lacking. Every single mistake I made became a family legend, whispered and retold at gatherings like folklore. Let me paint you a picture of what growing up in that house was like. When I was 8, I won the regional spelling bee. Studied for months, beat kids 2 grades older than me, came home with this huge trophy. You know what my parents said? That's nice, honey. Victoria just got accepted into the advanced math program. That was it. My trophy went on a shelf in my room where nobody saw it. Victoria's acceptance letter got framed and hung in the living room. When I was 15, I started coding. Taught myself from library books and free online courses. Built my first website for a local business and made $200. I was so proud. Thought maybe finally I'd done something they'd recognize. Dad looked at my work for maybe 30 seconds before saying, "That's cute. Victoria just got offered an internship at a law firm. Real career potential there." Every birthday, every Christmas, every single family gathering, the pattern never changed. Victoria was the star. I was the understudy who'd never get called to perform. The thing that really messed me up was how they'd use Victoria's success as a weapon against me. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the family motto. Didn't matter what I was doing or how hard I was trying. It was never enough because Victoria had already done it better, faster, or with more recognition. High school was brutal. Victoria had graduated valedictorian 3 years before I started. Every teacher knew her name. Every teacher compared me to her. "Oh, you're Victoria's sister. She was exceptional. Are you planning to follow in her footsteps?" Like I had a choice. Like I wasn't desperately trying to carve out my own identity while drowning in her shadow. I remember my guidance counselor looking at my college applications with this disappointed expression. "These are good schools, Bailey, but they're not quite Victoria level, are they? Maybe you should aim a bit higher." Never mind that I had a 3.9 GPA and killer extracurriculars. I wasn't Victoria, so I wasn't good enough. The worst part was watching Victoria soak up all the attention while treating me like I was invisible. She'd walk past me in the hallway at school and not even acknowledge my existence. But the second we got home, she'd be the perfect big sister, offering advice I didn't ask for, suggesting improvements I didn't need, constantly positioning herself as the one who had it all figured out while I was just stumbling through life. And my parents ate it up. "Your sister is just trying to help," they'd say when I complained about her condescending attitude. "She wants you to succeed." No, she wanted me to know my place. Big difference. College was supposed to be my escape. I picked a school on the opposite coast, determined to finally be someone other than Victoria's little sister. For 2 glorious years, I was just Bailey. Made my own friends, pursued my own interests, studied computer science because I loved it, not because someone told me to. Then Victoria decided to get her MBA at a school 20 minutes from mine. Suddenly, all those connections I'd built, all that independence I'd fought for, gone. She'd show up at my campus events, introduce herself to my professors, network with the career counselors I was working with, and everywhere she went, she'd mention she was my sister, like she was doing me a favor by associating with me. "I already have a job," I said quietly at that dinner table 5 years ago. "I'm doing well at a tech startup." My father, Glenn, swirling his drink, scoffed. "Playing with computers, you mean? Meanwhile, your sister is running charitable organizations, making real differences in people's lives." The irony of that statement, given what I know now, is almost funny. I couldn't help myself. I muttered, "Making differences in her bank account, you mean?" The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's perfect smile finally cracked. "What exactly are you implying?" she asked, her eyes flashing. Even then, some part of me must have known. Must have sensed that something about her perfect charity work didn't add up. The expensive clothes she wore to fundraising events, the luxury vacations she took as donor cultivation trips, the new car every year justified as necessary for representing the organization professionally. Before I could even respond, Mom swooped in. "Bailey, apologize to your sister, right now. After everything she's done for you." "Done for me?" I actually laughed. It sounded foreign, even to my own ears. What exactly has she done except make sure I never forgot my place? That was it. Dad slammed his glass down, the sound echoing through the room. "That's enough. You've always been jealous of Victoria's success. If you spent half as much time working as you do complaining—" "I work 60 hours a week," I yelled, standing up abruptly. "I'm leading development on a major project. But you've never once asked about it, have you?" "Sit down," Mom ordered, her voice sharp. "We're not finished." "Actually," I said, grabbing my purse, my hand shaking but my resolve hardening. "We are. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done watching you worship Victoria while treating me like I'm broken. I'm just done." Victoria, ever the manipulator, piped up with fake concern, dripping from every word. "Mom, Dad, she's just having another one of her episodes. Remember that time in high school when—" "Goodbye," I cut her off, already walking toward the door. "Don't try to contact me." Dad's voice, cold and laced with threat, followed me. "If you walk out that door, don't expect any help when you fail, and you will fail." I paused in the doorway, turning back for one last look. Mom's mascara-streaked face, Dad's rigid disapproval, Victoria's sickeningly satisfied smirk. They were a perfect family portrait, just as they always had been, with one glaring, unbearable imperfection. Me. "Watch me," I said, both a promise and a curse. Then I closed the door behind me. The first week after leaving was the hardest. I kept waiting for someone to call, to apologize, to tell me they'd overreacted and wanted to work things out. My phone stayed silent. Not a single text, not one voicemail, nothing. That's when I realized they weren't going to chase me. They were perfectly happy with their perfect little family of 3. I was the problem that had solved itself by walking out the door. So I threw myself into work with an intensity that probably wasn't healthy, but was definitely productive. The startup I joined was small, just 5 of us in a cramped office, surviving on ramen and energy drinks, and the conviction that we were building something revolutionary. We were developing project management software with AI integration before AI was the buzzword everyone threw around. My role started as a junior developer, but within 6 months I was leading the development team. Not because I was the best coder, though I was pretty good, but because I was the most driven. While everyone else went home at reasonable hours, I stayed, learned new frameworks, optimized our code, fixed bugs that nobody else wanted to touch. The founder, a guy named Trevor, pulled me aside one day. "Bailey, you're going to burn out if you keep this pace up." "I'm fine," I told him. And I was. Because every line of code I wrote, every problem I solved, every milestone we hit, it was proof that I was building something real, something they couldn't diminish or dismiss or compare to Victoria's achievements. Year 1 passed, then year 2. The startup got funding. We moved to a real office with actual furniture instead of folding tables. Hired more developers. Started landing enterprise clients. And through it all, my phone stayed silent. I told myself I didn't care, that I was better off without them. Most days I believed it, but there were moments, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons, when I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to call Mom, to share good news, to hear someone say they were proud of me. Then I'd remember that conversation. Remember Dad's voice telling me I'd fail. Remember Victoria's smirk, and I'd put the phone down. Year 3 was when everything changed. Trevor wanted to retire. He'd built the company from nothing, taken it as far as he could, and was ready to move on. He offered to sell me his shares for a price I couldn't actually afford. That's when Hugh entered the picture. We'd gone to MIT together, lost touch after graduation, reconnected at a tech conference. When I told him about the opportunity, he didn't hesitate. "I've got savings. You've got vision. Let's do this." We bought out Trevor together, 50-50 partners in a company that was valued at $800,000 at the time. Seemed like an impossible amount of money. Seemed like we'd reached the peak. We had no idea. Year 4, we landed a contract with a major retail chain. They needed custom inventory management software that could integrate with their existing systems. It was complex, demanding, and exactly the kind of challenge I'd been waiting for. We delivered it 6 weeks early and under budget. Word spread. Suddenly, we were the company other companies wanted to work with. Revenue doubled, then tripled. We moved to a bigger office, hired 15 more people, started filing patents for our proprietary algorithms. Hugh handled the business side while I focused on development. It was the partnership I'd never had with my family, built on mutual respect, shared goals, and actual communication. Year 5 started with a magazine profile. Some tech journalist had caught wind of our growth and wanted to do a feature. I almost said no. The last thing I wanted was attention that might reach my family. But Hugh convinced me. Bailey, hiding your success doesn't make you humble. It just makes you invisible. The article ran in Tech Business Weekly. We got 100 new inquiries in a month. Investors started calling. One of them offered to acquire us for $12 million. We turned them down. This was our company, built on our terms, and we weren't ready to sell. That's also when Grandma Amy found out. She'd apparently subscribed to Tech Business Weekly years ago after Grandpa passed away. He'd been an engineer, and she kept the subscription as a way to feel connected to him. She saw my photo in the magazine and recognized me immediately. She didn't call right away, told me later she wanted to give me space. But she kept tabs, followed the company's growth, read every article, every press release, and she never told my parents. They don't deserve to know, she said when we finally talked. Not after what they did to you. 5 years passed, 5 years of absolute silence from them, but 5 years of building something they couldn't diminish. 5 years of becoming someone they wouldn't even recognize. 5 years of peace. Until my phone buzzed that morning with a message from my cousin Presley. Hey stranger, you're not going to believe this, but Grandma Amy's 85th birthday party is next month. The whole family's coming. Victoria's organizing everything, and she's planning something wild. She's been asking about you a lot. I stared at the message, my coffee growing cold beside my laptop. Through my office window, I could see the city skyline, the same view that had graced magazine covers featuring my company, the same view my family would never believe I owned. Another message from Presley popped up. You should come. Show them who you are now. My finger hovered over the delete button, but something stopped me. Maybe it was time. Time to show them exactly who Bailey Francis had become while they weren't watching. My phone buzzed again. This time, a news alert. Tech innovator makes Forbes 30 under 40. My own face stared back at me from the screen. I'd insisted they omit my middle name for the article. My family never read tech news anyway. I thought of Victoria, so desperate to know what I'd been doing, planning something wild for Grandma's party. My sister always did love a good show. Well, I murmured to myself, a slow smile spreading across my face. Let's give her one. I typed a quick reply to Presley. Tell me more about this party. Someone's been poking around your socials, Hugh said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. And I don't mean the usual tech journalists. I minimized the quarterly reports on my screen. Let me guess, my sister? Not directly. Hugh leaned forward, lowering his voice even though we were alone in my office. But that cousin of yours, the chatty one who messaged you about the party, she told me Victoria's been showing everyone pictures of you outside some luxury condo in Manhattan. Interesting, considering you've never posted anything about where you live. Exactly. Hugh had been my right hand since the startup days, back when we were coding in a basement apartment. He knew everything, including why I kept my success hidden from my family. He'd been there for the late-night conversations when I'd admit how much it hurt that they never reached out. He'd been the one to remind me that their silence was their loss, not mine. She hired someone, Hugh said flatly. An investigator. I felt that same familiar chill, the one I used to get before family dinners. The one that said danger was coming and I needed to be ready. You're sure? Remember Justin from MIT Security? His wife works for an investigations firm in the city. She overheard your sister's name mentioned in a briefing. Apparently, Victoria hired them 3 weeks ago. Paid $5,000 upfront for a full background check and surveillance report. $5,000. Victoria was that desperate to prove I was lying that she'd spent $5,000 on an investigator. The pettiness was almost impressive. My phone buzzed. Another message from Presley. OMG, you have to hear what Victoria just told everyone in the family group chat. She says you've been lying about everything. Says she has proof you're not who you say you are. I showed Hugh the message. He whistled low. She's trying to set you up for something big at that party. Let her try. I stood up, walking to the window. 15 floors below, people looked like ants scurrying between skyscrapers. The view I'd worked so hard to earn. The view that proved I'd made something of myself without their help or approval. She wants to expose me? Fine, but she might not like what she finds. What are you thinking? Before I could answer, my assistant buzzed in. Miss Francis, your 2 o'clock is here. The venture capital meeting. Thanks, Karen. Hugh nodded, heading for the door, then paused. Just be careful, okay? I know that look. You're planning something. After he left, I opened my laptop and pulled up my private email. 3 new messages from family members I hadn't spoken to in years, all asking variations of the same question. Was it true? Had I really been pretending to be successful? Uncle Robert. Bailey, your sister is saying some concerning things about your situation. If you need help, you can call me. Aunt Michelle. Is everything okay? Victoria showed us pictures of where you're supposedly living. It doesn't look like the success story we'd heard. Cousin Todd. Dude, what's going on? Victoria's telling everyone you've been lying about your job. I clicked delete on all of them. These people hadn't cared about me in 5 years. They didn't get to suddenly act concerned now just because Victoria was spreading rumors. My phone rang. Grandma Amy's number. My finger hovered over decline, but something made me answer. Bailey? Her voice was warm, familiar. The only voice from that family that didn't make my stomach clench. I heard you might be coming to my party. I'm thinking about it, Grandma. Good, because I think it's time. She paused. Your sister's planning something dramatic, isn't she? Seems like it. Then you should come, she said firmly. Not for them, for you. And maybe a little for me. I'd like to see what you've become. You already know, don't you? She laughed, that warm sound I remembered from childhood. The sound that used to make me feel safe when everything else in that family made me feel small. I've known for 3 years, ever since that article in Tech Business Weekly. You look just like your grandfather in that photo. Same determined eyes. Same stubborn set to your jaw when you're focused on something. My throat tightened. Grandpa had been the only other person in that family who ever believed in me. He'd passed away when I was 23, right before everything took off. You never said anything. You needed space to grow without them poisoning it. But now I think it's time they saw the truth. She paused. And Bailey? I'm proud of you. Your grandfather would be proud of you. You did exactly what he always said you would. You proved everyone wrong by being exactly who you are. After we hung up, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my phone. Then I pulled up my calendar. The party was in 3 weeks. That gave me just enough time to prepare. I called Hugh back into my office. Get Fletcher on the phone. Your lawyer? This is getting serious? Victoria wants to play detective? Let's show her what real investigation looks like. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Fletcher, my corporate attorney, was thorough to the point of obsession. When I told him what Victoria had been doing, hiring investigators, spreading rumors, planning some kind of public humiliation, his eyes lit up like I'd handed him the case of his career. Fletcher was in his 50s, looked like someone's friendly uncle, but had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in court. We'd worked together on several contracts over the years, and I'd learned to trust his instincts completely. Let me get this straight, he said, leaning back in his chair during our first meeting. Your sister hired someone to dig into your life, presumably to find dirt? That's the plan, seems like. And what exactly is she going to find? I smiled. A successful tech CEO with a clean record, 3 patents in software development, and a company valued at $12 million. So she's going to humiliate herself? He grinned. I love it. But let's make sure we're protected. I'm going to do some digging of my own. Into her. Into Victoria? If she's running a charity, there are public records, financial disclosures, tax filings. The whole thing is surprisingly transparent if you know where to look. He pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Let's just say I've seen this type before. People who use nonprofits as personal piggy banks. They think nobody's paying attention because it's charity work. I hadn't expected that. The comment I'd made 5 years ago about her bank account had been pure instinct, born from years of watching her expensive lifestyle and wondering how a nonprofit director afforded it. You think she's stealing? I think, Fletcher said carefully, that someone who's this desperate to tear you down probably has something to hide herself. People who are secure in their own success don't need to destroy others. They just live their lives. He started requesting documents, IRS Form 990s, which all nonprofits have to file publicly, annual reports from Victoria's organization, board meeting minutes, financial audits. Everything was technically public record, but nobody ever bothered to look at it because, well, who investigates charity organizations? Fletcher looked, and what he found was damning. The first red flag was the expense reports. Victoria's charity supposedly helped homeless families find housing and job training. Noble cause. But when Fletcher pulled the financial statements, things didn't add up. The organization brought in about $400,000 a year in donations. Operating expenses were listed at $320,000, leaving $80,000 for actual program services. "Look at this," Fletcher said during our second meeting, spreading documents across his conference table. "She's billing the charity $15,000 a year for office space. Want to know where that office space is? The spare bedroom in her condo? Seriously? It gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Travel expenses, $90,000 last year alone. For a local charity that operates within a 50-mile radius, she somehow needed to take trips to the Caribbean, Europe, and Hawaii. All first class. All 5-star hotels." He flipped through more pages. "Consultant fees to 3 different LLCs, totaling $110,000 annually. I traced those LLCs. Want to guess who owns them? Victoria. Bingo. She's literally paying herself through shell companies. The charity pays consulting fees to businesses she owns, which then pay her directly. It's money laundering with extra steps." 2 days before the party, Fletcher called me into his office. The look on his face told me everything had gone from bad to worse for Victoria. "You were right," he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk. "Your sister's charity? It's a mess. She's been using it as a personal slush fund, overcharging for expenses, billing the charity for personal travel, even funneling money to shell companies she controls." I stared at the documents. Years of financial irregularities, all meticulously documented. "I've already contacted the state attorney general's office," Fletcher continued. "They're very interested. How bad is it? 6-figure embezzlement, maybe more. They're opening a formal investigation." The party was on a Saturday evening at the country club, the same one my family had been members of for 3 generations. The same one where Victoria had her debutante ball. The same one where I'd been told repeatedly, in subtle and not so subtle ways, that I'd never quite fit in with their crowd. I drove there in my Tesla Model S, the one with the custom paint job and premium interior, dressed in a designer suit that cost more than my parents used to spend on my birthday and Christmas combined. Hair professionally styled that morning. Confidence earned through 5 years of proving myself. Presley met me in the parking lot, her eyes going wide as I pulled up. "Bailey? Oh my God, you look amazing. And holy crap, is that a Tesla? Thanks." I handed my keys to the valet, who looked at the car with obvious appreciation. His eyes went even wider when he saw the custom interior through the window. "Victoria's been telling everyone you're broke," Presley whispered as we walked toward the entrance, her heels clicking on the pavement. "She says you've been lying about everything, living in some terrible apartment in Queens, working minimum wage jobs at coffee shops." "Is that what she's been saying?" "She's got this whole presentation planned. PowerPoint and everything. Says she hired some investigator who proved you're a fraud. Spent weeks putting it together. Even made a video montage of what she claims is evidence." Presley grabbed my arm. "Bailey, I'm sorry. I should have warned you sooner, but I didn't think she'd actually go through with something this elaborate." "Don't worry," I said, squeezing her hand. "Let her do her presentation. I'm actually looking forward to it." The ballroom was decorated exactly how I remembered Grandma liked. Elegant, understated, with fresh flowers everywhere. White roses and orchids arranged in tall crystal vases. String quartet playing soft classical music in the corner. About 60 people milled around, most of them family members I hadn't seen in 5 years. The conversation stopped when I walked in. I could feel their eyes on me, hear the whispers starting. "There she is! That's Bailey. I heard she's been lying about her life. Victoria's about to expose her. This is going to be awkward. Mom saw me first. Her face went pale, then red, then something I couldn't quite read. Maybe recognition that her daughter looked successful, despite their predictions. Maybe fear that Victoria's presentation might not go as planned. Maybe just surprise that I'd actually shown up. Dad was next to her, his expression hard and unyielding as ever. Same judgmental eyes I remembered. Same disappointed set to his jaw that said I'd never quite measure up. 5 years hadn't softened him at all. But it was Victoria who made the moment perfect. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by relatives hanging on her every word. Designer dress that probably cost $5,000. Hair done professionally, makeup perfect. Every inch the successful daughter, the golden child, the one who'd done everything right. When she saw me, her mouth actually dropped open. For just a second, her mask slipped, and I saw genuine shock. Whatever she'd expected, a defeated woman showing up to defend herself maybe, or no one at all, it wasn't this. Not me looking confident and successful and completely unfazed by her grand plan. "Bailey," she said, her voice carrying across the room, pitched loud enough for everyone to hear. You actually came. I'm surprised. The slight pause before surprised told me she'd meant to say something else, something cutting, but seeing me had thrown her off her script. Wouldn't miss Grandma's birthday for anything, I said, keeping my voice pleasant and neutral. No aggression, no defensiveness, just a granddaughter showing up for her grandmother's party. I walked past her toward Grandma Amy, who was sitting in a place of honor near the head table. Her eyes sparkled with something that looked like anticipation and pride. She'd known I was coming, known what Victoria had planned, and clearly had her own thoughts about how this evening would unfold. Happy birthday, Grandma. Bailey. She stood up, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her signature perfume, the same one I remembered from childhood, Chanel No. 5. The scent transported me back to better memories, rare moments of feeling valued in a family that mostly made me feel worthless. You look wonderful. Successful. Very successful. The emphasis on that last word wasn't accidental. Grandma knew exactly what Victoria had been saying about me. Thank you. Your sister's been very busy, she said quietly, just for my ears. Planning this party. Planning other things too. I heard. Good. She patted my hand. Then you know what's coming. And you're prepared? More than prepared. She smiled. That knowing smile that suggested she'd seen all of this coming from miles away. Then let's have dinner. I'm quite looking forward to dessert. The way she said it made it clear she wasn't talking about cake. Dinner was awkward in that special way only family gatherings can be. I sat at a table with Presley and some cousins who kept shooting me curious glances. The kind of looks that said they'd heard Victoria's stories, but weren't quite sure what to believe now that they'd seen me arrive in a Tesla wearing designer clothes. Mom and Dad were at the head table with Grandma and Victoria. I could see Victoria whispering to them urgently, see Mom's worried expression, Dad's anger building. He kept glancing my way with something between confusion and fury. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. I was supposed to show up defeated, or not show up at all. My confidence had thrown off their entire narrative. Uncle Robert leaned over from the next table. Bailey, it's been too long. How have you been? 5 years of silence, and now he wanted to chat. Doing well, Uncle Robert. Really well. That's good. That's good. He looked uncomfortable. Your sister mentioned you'd been having some difficulties. Did she? I smiled. What kind of difficulties? Well, you know, career troubles, financial issues, that sort of thing. Interesting. Did she happen to mention where she got this information? He shifted in his seat. She said she'd hired someone to check on you, just to make sure you were okay, you understand? Family looking out for family. How thoughtful of her. The dinner courses came and went. Salad, soup, main course. Every few minutes, I'd catch someone staring at me, whispering to their neighbor, clearly confused about the disconnect between Victoria's stories and my actual appearance. Victoria kept glancing at her phone. She'd set up a projector and screen at the front of the room, ready for her big presentation. I could see her checking her notes, rehearsing whatever speech she'd prepared. After dessert, Victoria stood up and tapped her glass. The room fell silent immediately. She had that kind of presence. Years of being the center of attention had taught her how to command a room. Everyone, thank you so much for coming to celebrate Grandma Amy's 80-year birthday. She's been the rock of our family for so long, and we're blessed to have her. Applause. Grandma smiled graciously, though I caught the slight roll of her eyes that suggested she knew what was coming. But, Victoria continued, her voice taking on a serious tone that made everyone lean forward slightly, there's something else we need to address tonight. Something that's been troubling our family for years. I felt the room's attention shift toward me. Subtle at first, a few glances, some shifted seats for better views. Then more obvious, as Victoria's pause stretched out for dramatic effect. My sister Bailey, she said, and there was something poisonous in how she said my name, like it tasted bitter in her mouth, has been telling people she's successful, that she runs a tech company, that she's made something of herself, that she lives in Manhattan in some luxury condo and drives expensive cars. Mom looked like she might cry. Dad's face was stone. Several relatives had their phones out, presumably ready to record whatever was about to happen. But I've always had my doubts, Victoria went on, pacing slightly like a prosecutor addressing a jury. You see, Bailey and I haven't spoken in 5 years. She cut off all contact with the family, refused to come to holidays, birthdays, any family gatherings. And whenever anyone asked about her, we'd hear these vague stories about her tech job and her success. But no proof, no verification, just rumors and claims. She paused for effect, letting the implication hang in the air, that I'd been lying, that I'd cut them off because I was ashamed, that the family had been right about me all along. So I hired a professional investigator to look into her claims. to find out the truth about what my sister has really been doing for the past 5 years, where she really lives, what she really does for work, whether any of her success story is actually true. She pulled out a folder, theatrical, just like everything else about her, and held it up for everyone to see. And what he found is interesting, I suggested, standing up calmly. Victoria faltered, her script interrupted. What? What he found is interesting, right? I walked toward the head table, every eye in the room following me. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor, the only sound in the suddenly silent ballroom. Because I'm very curious what a professional investigator discovered about my life when I wasn't looking. You want me to read it? Victoria's confidence was returning. She thought she'd regained control. Fine. Everyone should know the truth. She opened the folder with a flourish and began reading, her voice strong and clear. Bailey Francis, age 31, currently residing at... She stopped. Her eyes scanned the page rapidly, and I watched her face change colors like a sunset, pale to red, to something approaching purple. Currently residing where? I prompted gently. Currently residing in a luxury condo in Manhattan, valued at approximately $3.4 million. Her voice had gone quiet. The room had gone even quieter. Keep reading, I said. It gets better. Owner of TechBridge Solutions, a software company valued at... Her voice cracked slightly. Valued at? I prompted again. She looked up at me, then back at the paper. Her carefully practiced composure was cracking in real time. $12.2 million. The room erupted, relatives gasping, whispering, turning to each other in shock. Someone dropped their fork, the clatter unnaturally loud in the chaos. Keep reading, I said quietly. We're just getting to the good part. CEO and founder of TechBridge Solutions, Victoria read, her voice shaking now, her hands trembling enough that the paper rattled. Featured in Forbes 30 Under 40, 3 patents in artificial intelligence and machine learning applications. Estimated personal net worth? She stopped again, closed her eyes, opened them. Go on, I encouraged. Estimated personal net worth of $4.7 million. She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw actual fear in my sister's eyes. Real, genuine fear. This can't be real. This has to be a mistake. Oh, it's real. I pulled out my phone and projected it onto the screen Victoria had set up for her presentation. My Forbes article filled the wall. My face, my company, my success. All of it verified and documented by one of the most respected business publications in the world. The room went completely silent. Not the anticipatory silence from before, but the shocked silence of people realizing they'd been spectacularly wrong about something. Surprise, I said softly. Mom was crying now. Real tears, not the theatrical ones. Dad looked like someone had punched him. Victoria just stood there, the folder hanging limply in her hand. You hired an investigator to prove I was lying, I continued, addressing the room now. But he did his job. He found the truth. I just wasn't the truth you wanted. Bailey, Mom started. No, I held up my hand. You don't get to talk. Not yet. For 5 years, I've been building this. Working 16-hour days, taking risks, failing and getting back up. And not once, did any of you reach out to see if I was okay, to ask how I was doing, to offer support. We thought, Dad tried. You thought I'd fail. You wanted me to fail. Because that's what you'd been telling me my whole life, that I'd never be as good as Victoria, that I'd never measure up. I turned to Victoria. And you. You were so desperate to prove I was a fraud that you spent money hiring someone to investigate me. Did you ever stop to think that maybe I was telling the truth? That maybe I actually did succeed? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. But here's what's really interesting, I said, and nodded to Fletcher, who'd been standing quietly near the back. He walked forward, carrying his own folder. Everyone, this is my attorney, Fletcher Hall. He's been doing some investigating too. Victoria, would you like to tell everyone what he found? Or should I? All color drained from her face. What is this? Dad demanded. Fletcher opened his folder. For the past 18 months, Victoria Francis has been embezzling money from her charity organization. She's been billing personal expenses to the nonprofit, creating fake vendors, and funneling money into shell companies she controls. Current estimate of stolen funds is approximately $240,000. The room exploded again, this time with accusations, shock, and anger. Victoria's perfect reputation was crumbling in real time. That's not... I didn't... Victoria stammered. You didn't? Fletcher held up documents. Because I have receipts here for a Caribbean vacation charged to the charity. Business expenses for a charity that helps homeless families Somehow included first-class flights to St. Bart's. Mom was sobbing now. Dad had gone from red to white to gray. The police are here, Fletcher said calmly. I was required by law to report the charity fraud once I discovered it. They've been building a case for weeks. Right on cue, 2 detectives entered the ballroom. They barely glanced at the birthday decorations as they approached our group. We're looking for Victoria Francis, one said, showing his badge. Mom whispered, looking at Victoria like she'd never seen her before. We know, the detective said. We just arrested her business partner in the parking lot. The room exploded again. Relatives gasping. Mom sobbing. Dad arguing with the detectives. Through it all, Grandma sat calmly, sipping her champagne. Well, she said to me quietly, was it worth the wait? I watched my parents rushing out to find Victoria. Watched my relatives huddle in shocked groups, sharing stories of how Victoria had borrowed money or made promises through her charity. I didn't want this, I admitted. You just wanted the truth, Grandma said. And now everyone has it. She stood up, commanding attention like always. This party is not over. My granddaughter, my successful, honest granddaughter, is finally home, and I want cake. Later, as servers cut the elaborate birthday cake Victoria had ordered, Presley brought me a glass of water. That was intense, she said. But you know what's crazy? No one's even surprised about Victoria anymore. They're all talking about you, about how they should have seen it. Seen what? That you were the strong one. The real deal. She clinked her glass against mine. Victoria tried to tear you down and exposed herself instead. That's some karma. My phone buzzed. A text from Hugh. News about your sister's arrest is hitting the business feeds. Want me to handle PR? No, I typed back. Let the truth speak for itself. Bailey. Dad's voice made me look up. He stood awkwardly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Your mother and I are going to the police station. But first, I need to say... I cut him off. Save your apologies. They're 5 years too late. He nodded slowly, understanding finally showing in his eyes. You really did it, didn't you? Everything we said you couldn't do. No, I corrected him. Everything you never bothered to see me do. As he walked away, Grandma raised her glass in my direction. Around us, relatives were already shifting, adapting to the new family dynamic, one where Victoria wasn't the golden child and I wasn't the failure. Happy birthday, Grandma, I said, raising my glass in return. She smiled, that knowing smile that suggested she'd seen this coming all along. Oh, sweetheart, this is just the beginning. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.